What's up, everybody? I'm Finn McKenty. This is the Punk Rock MBA, and today we're here to celebrate. What are we celebrating? Well, over the weekend, the channel hit 50,000 subscribers. So like 50,000 subscribers compared to, PewDiePie or really anybody else is not a huge number. I think if you look it up on Social Blade, like my channel would be like number 450,000. But still, it's 50,000 people that have subscribed to this channel. And honestly, it means the world to me because you guys have a lot of options for what you could be spending your time and energy and attention on. There's a ton of people out there putting out great content. You could be going to a show, you could be doing anything with your time, but the fact that you chose to show up here and watch one of my stupid videos means the world to me. So thank you very much to everybody who watches, everybody who comments, shares. Thank you very much to everybody who's in the Facebook group. If you haven't joined the Facebook group, there's a link in the description. But yeah, what I wanted to do with this video, in addition to saying thank you, I want to make this something that is hopefully useful to you guys. I don't want it to be one of these long-winded, like self-absorbed channel update videos where they just blab about themselves. It is about you guys, not me. So I want this video to be something useful. So what I'm going to do is share a little bit about what I learned along the way of getting from 0 subscribers a year ago to 50,000 today. I'm going to share some exact numbers from my analytics about views and subscribers and show you exactly how much money I've made and talk about some bigger picture things that I have learned that will hopefully be useful for you guys in growing whatever it is that you're trying to do, whether that's a band or a YouTube channel or a comic book or a label or, whatever it is you guys are doing. I think at the end of the day, all creative projects share more or less the same kind of challenges. And so hopefully the stuff that I'm going to talk about will help you overcome those. And if you're interested, I'm also going to give you a short little behind the scenes tour of how I make these videos in terms of production and editing and all that stuff. Spoiler warning, it's not very impressive. So I want to just kind of give you guys a look behind the scenes at the numbers of the channel. So we'll look at views because views I think are actually more important than subscribers. Let's look at the last 365 days here. So you can see here, going back to January of 2018, like it's basically nothing. And then in, like late September, is when it took off. And that was, and I've gotten 2.1 million views in the last year, almost all of which have come in the last, 5 months or whatever. And that big inflection point was the Bring Me the Horizon video that I did. That's the thing that made the channel really take off. So that's the last year, but let's zoom in a little bit more. Last 90 days, we've gotten 1.8 million views in the last 90 days. So 2.1 million in the past year. So of those 2.1 million views, 1.8 million of those happened in the last 90 days. So I guess that's just kind of reinforcing what I was talking about before about how the channel was getting off to a really slow start and only recently started getting any kind of real traction. Let's also talk about money. So I will show you exactly how much money I have made from AdSense in the past year. I've made $1,700 from AdSense. So basically there's some requirements to get monetized by YouTube that you guys may know about. You have to have 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours in the past year. Then once you hit that mark, they'll review your channel and approve you for ads. So that happened for me in September. And you can see right away, I made a couple $100 again from, there's the Bring Me the Horizon video I did, and then the Slipknot one pretty soon after that, and I got a little bit of money from those. So $1,700 in the last year, and in the last 90 days, actually all of that was in the last 90 days. So I made nothing off this channel until November. So there you go. I worked on this for 11 months, putting a lot of time and energy into this thing, and I didn't make a dime off of it until November. And you can see, and then the last month is $400. So, again, December is pretty slow, but if you were to look at the amount of time and energy that I put into this channel, it's definitely below minimum wage to make $400 a month. So anyway, I'm not complaining. I'm just letting you guys know because I thought it might be interesting for you to know, for somebody who has 50,000 subscribers, how much money do they actually make off of AdSense? So one thing that hurt me a little bit from a monetization perspective is that some of my biggest videos, like the What Killed Skate Punk one, What Killed Post-Hardcore, How Did a Day to Remember Get So Big, those are not monetized, or well, they are monetized, but I don't get the money because I used copyrighted video clips in those. There was a copyright claim filed against those, which means that instead of me getting money for those ads, it goes to the people who own that video, which is totally fair. They should get it because I use their content. I'm not complaining about it, but I don't know, that's probably 500,000 views on those videos that I didn't get any money for because I made the mistake of using that content that, was owned by somebody else. So it would have been smarter for me to use some live footage or something like that that wouldn't get a copyright claim, but you know, live and learn. Probably cost me a few $100s. So there's a couple lessons from this, which I'll talk about in a minute, but the big one to me is that you may have to keep kind of grinding for a long time, and it might feel like you're not making any progress, but you never know when that breakthrough is going to happen. And so it's a tough decision of like, man, am I stupid to like keep grinding away at this thing even though I'm not making any progress? Or could it be that that progress is going to happen tomorrow, just like it did for me? That's a tough call to make for anybody, but this is a great example of it. Like nothing happened for 9 months and then boom, it all took off, and I got 40,000 subscribers since October, which I think most people would be pretty happy with. I certainly am. So I think that's it as far as data goes. If you guys have any other questions about numbers that you would like to see, I'm happy to share all those. I really don't give a shit. I'm not precious about that stuff. If there's a site called socialblade.com, which a lot of you guys know of, but you can look up, you put any YouTuber in there and it'll give you an estimate of how much money they make and how many subscribers they have and all that stuff. It's pretty accurate. So if you want to know this about any other YouTuber, just go to socialblade.com, type it in, and you can spy on them. Oh, and one more thing. So you saw a couple of those big spikes there. There are two people in particular that I wanted to thank for creating a couple of those spikes. The first is Ryan Bruce Fluff. He is the first person to give me a shout out back in, I think, August or something of last year. That gave me like 1,000 subscribers overnight, which at that time was a lot. And once I got those first 1,000 subscribers, that's really what enabled me to kind of build on that foundation and see that really big spike that you saw in September with the Bring Me the Horizon video. Second person I wanted to thank is Anthony Fantano, who's given me a whole bunch of shout outs, which I really appreciate. I mean, when it comes to this world of like, you know, online music nerds, I don't think there's anybody whose opinion carries as much weight as his, maybe him and Adam22. I really appreciate Anthony and Fluff's support. So thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate that. It definitely made a difference.
I thought you guys also might be interested in seeing where the magic happens. So this is it. This is our spare bedroom, which is full of random junk. And also my little quote unquote studio. It's a little bit of an overstatement to call it that, but basically what I have here is this shitty camera and a couple lights, which I paid about $100 for or something like that on Amazon. And then I have the couch here, which I got at Target for like $40. And then there's my background, which you can see looks a lot cooler on film than it does in reality. So what it is it's all, I just photocopied pages from this book of punk flyers, and I glued them to foam core board here, and then that foam core board is pinned to the wall here, and it falls off every so often, and it's pretty janky. Like you can see the seams here look like shit, but on video it works okay, I think. So yeah, this is just a little IKEA cart and a drawer of junk that you can't see on camera, and then here's the street outside. So yeah, this is where the magic happens. And if you want to do YouTube, I would highly recommend, so I have it actually taped off here, exactly where the camera is supposed to go, just like you would see with like drummers, you know, they'll have their carpet with everything taped off like that. So if you want to do YouTube on a regular basis, I would highly recommend having something like this set up with like the camera and the lights and everything ready to go. So all you have to do is sit down and turn on the lights. You don't have to like, you know, do a bunch of work to set everything up, which really just adds friction to the creative process. So there you go. That is my humble little quote unquote set. Here is where I edit everything. I have a 2018 15-inch MacBook Pro and this 1440p monitor here. I just set it up in the living room here because I don't want to be in an office all day or in the spare bedroom locked up in there away from everything else. I don't know, just kind of like sitting next to the window, be able to look out the window when I work. I switched back to Mac recently from Windows, and at the risk of turning this into a Mac versus PC debate, man, the Mac is worth every penny. Like you get more horsepower for your buck for sure with Windows machines, but the headaches are just not worth it. I was wasting 20-30 minutes a day to crashes and bugs and shit like that when I was editing in Windows. And now that I've switched back to Mac, I've had maybe 2 crashes in Premiere in a couple months. So that's the other thing is I use Premiere Final Cut Pro might be a better option. It's definitely faster on Mac, but I don't know. I know how to use Premiere, so I stick with that. Maybe one of these days I'll switch to Final Cut Pro. We'll see.
And the last thing I wanted to do in this video is leave you guys with some, I don't know, lessons learned, or I don't want to say advice necessarily, but I guess it is like advice for anybody who's trying to get their project off the ground. Again, whether that's a YouTube channel or a comic book or an art project or a band, like whatever. I think fundamentally, whatever kind of creator you are, you deal with the same kind of challenges. The biggest one being at the beginning is like, how do I get anybody to give a shit? How do I get anybody to notice what I'm doing? Like, that's the hardest part, right? Like the first 9 months of that like traffic chart that I showed you, that's the hardest part. It was fucking frustrating and demoralizing. And I asked myself every day, am I stupid for doing this? Like, am I wasting my time? Like, what am I doing? Am I too old for this shit? That's the hardest part for everybody. So I wanted to give you guys some, I don't know, I guess advice or thoughts or things that I've learned that may help you get through that phase if that's where you're stuck right now, because I think a lot of people are. So the main thing I would say is that it's not about all the little tactical things like how do I tag my videos or what time should I upload, or like all that stuff helps, but that's not going to make or break it. What's going to make or break it is like fundamentally is what you're doing, a thing that resonates with your audience. Again, whether that's a comic book or a band or a YouTube channel, it doesn't matter. Like, are you putting something out there that other people are going to like once they do discover it? And the key to that is, you've heard this like probably from like every YouTuber that's done a video like this. The key to it is you have to be yourself. And I know that that sounds like kind of corny or simple or something like that, but it's actually really hard. I struggled with that a lot in the beginning of the channel. The reason why it wasn't taking off is because I wasn't being myself. I mean, I was being a version of myself, but I was trying to do, you know, I talked a lot about business and stuff, which I am passionate about and I do know about, but I felt like I should talk about business instead of music because business is more like legitimate or something. And I'm like, oh, at my age, I shouldn't be talking about metalcore bands. I should be talking about business, which, you know, sometimes I still feel that way. And somebody in the comments is probably going to tell me that I am too old to talk about metalcore bands. But anyway, the point is you have to be yourself. You have no choice but to be yourself. And when you do that, when you do an effective job of putting yourself out there, what's going to happen is that other, you know, like attracts like, as I've talked about in some of my videos, what's going to happen is that when you put yourself out there in an authentic, fearless way, other people will connect with that. And that's when you're going to get momentum, because what you want to do is find your people. And you can only find your people when you are honest and authentic and when you are your real self. And I guess just to put a little finer point on that, whatever it is that you are most insecure about, that is the thing that is going to make people like you. That's the thing that's going to get you traction. As one example of that, there's a YouTuber I like a lot named Boogie2988 who talks about video games. And what makes him different than the 9 fucking million other people that talk about video games on YouTube? Well, the answer is basically he does exactly what I said, which is he puts himself out there in a really like fearless, vulnerable way that makes you connect with him and go, man, I like this guy. I want to support him. So for example, like most recently, he did a video like last week where he was talking about his weight problem. So he weighs like 500 pounds, I guess. He's lost some weight, and he was talking about how he has these like folds of like loose skin under his arms or whatever that are like getting infected, and he has to have surgery to get it removed, which, I mean, that's a pretty humiliating thing to talk about, right? Like, to me, that takes a lot of courage to talk about the infected flaps of skin under your arm because you're obese. He talked about, he also has really fucked up teeth. I don't know why, like rotten teeth that get infected and stuff. And he's talking about how he needs to get those removed. He recently got a divorce, so he talked about that. And I'm not saying like you should highlight your flaws necessarily, but like that's his life. And I'm not saying you should like position yourself as some kind of like tragic figure or something like that. My point is you shouldn't position yourself as anything. You should just be who you are. And that's who he is. He is a 40-year-old like obese guy from Arkansas who has these health problems, who just got a divorce and talked about video games. And I think it's awesome. Like, he's not trying to pretend that he's anything other than that. And so for me, the thing that I am most sensitive about is my age, because I just turned 40. And like I said, you know, I'm always asking myself like, man, am I too old to be talking about this stuff? Like, shouldn't I be doing something else with my time? But again, instead of trying to hide my age or trying to like, you know, sidestep the reality of my age, I said, you know what, fuck it. I'm just going to lean into it. I'm going to turn that from a liability into an asset, because the fact that I am 40 years old means I was around to do and see a lot of stuff firsthand that a lot of you guys seem to think is interesting. You know, I was there. I saw, you know, Pantera in 1991, and I saw Earth Crisis in 1994, and I saw botches like second or third show or something like that. The fact that I'm old, instead of being a liability, is actually an asset. Like, not too many other people on YouTube can talk about this stuff with the kind of authority I can because I was there. And that's something that no good-looking 23-year-old can take away from me because I was there and they weren't. So anyway, I don't know if that makes any sense, but all of this is basically just a long-winded way of saying that, like, you are who you are, and as soon as you embrace that and lean into it and like triple down on who you are, that is when you're going to become successful. And I know that that sounds like some kind of a feel good, you know, like you're great just the way you are, like participation trophy kind of thing. It's not that at all. It's just reality. Like, we connect with people who are real and authentic. We do not connect with people who are fake and trying to put on a front. Like, that shit just doesn't work. People are too smart for that. As soon as you are your authentic self, as soon as you just like let go of the fear of revealing these insecurities, that is when you're going to find success. So again, like I said before, whatever you are most insecure about, that is the exact thing that is going to make people love you. So it may seem like you're toiling away in obscurity, getting nowhere, but you are. And it's easy to think that, you know, because only, like, let's say you put a song or a video out there and 50 people saw it. You're like, oh, fuck, 50 views. Well, PewDiePie gets 20 million views on his videos. I only got 50 views on mine. Well, okay, but that's still 50 people. Like, if you were standing in a room and 50 people were listening to you talk, that would feel like a lot, right? I guess the lesson is focus on who is watching rather than who is not watching. And by watching, again, I don't just mean YouTube. It could be a band or a comic book, whatever it is. Focus on the people who are watching and don't worry so much about all the people that aren't watching, because you don't actually need a very big following in order to become pretty successful. Like, you've maybe heard the 1,000 true fans thing, which is if you had, imagine you had 1,000 people who would reliably support anything that you did, like you could have a nice career off that, right? Like, if 1,000 people gave you $100 a year, that's 100 grand a year. And I think anybody could make a pretty nice living off 100 grand a year, right? And getting 1,000 true fans is attainable for anybody, no matter how weird or niche or obscure you think that your music or hobby or interest or whatever it is. Like, there's definitely 1,000 people out there in the world who will support you. You just need to keep putting yourself out there and finding those people. And lastly, I think that this channel and the Facebook group around it, and for the most part, the comments on these videos and my Instagram and everywhere else that we talk to each other, is proof that you can have like an online community of people who are cool and smart and supportive and nice to each other. Because one of the weirdest things to me is that online fandoms about anything, but like especially music for some reason, are so like nasty and shitty and negative and toxic. And for what? Like, because we like different bands? Like, how dumb is it to hate somebody because they like a different band than you did? This is just, it makes no sense. I've always tried really hard to cultivate a positive like atmosphere around this channel, and I think we did it. You know, the Facebook group has, I think, almost 5,000 people in it now. There are no trolls. Everybody there is nice and cool. Like, nobody is shitting on each other because of their musical taste. And if it ever does happen, I ban them immediately because I have no fucking room in my life for that shit. Even the comments on these videos, like YouTube comments, are for the most part just fucking horrible. And I get my share of haters, don't get me wrong, but, you know, relative to the rest of YouTube, I think the atmosphere is pretty cool, and I really appreciate that. So thank you guys for being cool and supportive and nice to each other. And this is just a small little pocket of the internet, but my hope is that by showing that it's possible to create a positive community of weirdos who like talking about metalcore and stuff like that, that you could create a similar kind of positive, cool community around anything else. So I don't know, maybe that's corny, or maybe I'm kidding myself. I don't know, but that would make me happier than anything, is just to, if this could be the inspiration for anybody else to create their own cool, positive, supportive community around whatever it is they're into, that would make me happier than anything else. Because I think the world would be a better place if we were all nice to each other like that. All right, guys, well, I've gone on long enough. I guess I will cut it off here. But again, thank you very, very, very much to everybody who watches the channel, everybody who comments and shares the videos. Thank you very much to everybody who's in the Facebook groups. I don't want to change everything overnight or anything like that, but I would love to hear from you guys if there's something you would like to see more of or less of, or I don't know, any kind of new format for videos. I don't know, anything like that. Let me know in the comments what you would like to see from the channel going forward. And I can't promise that I will do all that stuff. But I do read, like I said, I read every single one of my comments, for better or for worse, so I will see it. You guys have given me a lot of great ideas, so if you have anything that you would like me to think about doing in the future of the channel, let me know in the comments. I will see it and I will think about it. And yeah, I guess I will see you at 100,000.